camera.
Let's go. We're live with episode 45. I can't believe it's been 45 episodes of this show, and I'm hanging in here with you idiots. But here, here we are. We got a good one coming up. Jonathan Abbott's going to come on with us. I mean, he started out with me and T-Boats banging sponsons. Now he's an H1 Unlimited referee as well as the Hydroplane Racing League. Pretty cool his journey throughout everything in boat racing. Going to give us a different perspective on it. It's going to be probably the only time I'm happy to speak with a referee. How about you?
Yeah, that's not wrong. Yeah, no, it'll be cool. I know Austin and we grew up watching you and Jonathan running T-boat, and then I think you guys raced in 5-liter a little bit together too, didn't you? At one point.
Yeah, a couple times.
Yeah. So we got to watch you guys race against each other quite a bit. So it'll be cool to chat with him. I've only had to talk to him once racing so far, so I think that's a good thing.
Yeah,
2 years, one time. I think that's fair.
That's not too bad. Austin, you talked to him at all about jumping the gun or anything?
No, I don't think
Hitting
so.
buoys?
Hey, no.
You don't do that up there?
I'm nice and clean.
Jonathan cuts Austin more slack than me, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah, that one, I don't know. I didn't hit it.
That's it. That's all you can say. Well, we were on that one marketing call the other night, and we were talking about things, and they're like, I lost my train of thought on that one. Roll the tape. Anyway, they were talking about different things and calls and this, that, and the other, and trying to get those drone footage out there for the fans. I mean, even if it's negative, whatever, it's publicity. I mean, like we were just talking about backstage. It seems like anything we post nowadays, whether it's us, H1, Chase, Hydro News, it has so much negativity around it these days. But hey, I guess they say bad press is good press. I don't know. It's getting a little crazy out there, though.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I will say is you see it with every sport. I mean, they go post the the dramatic finish to a NASCAR race or any race for that matter. You know, Suzuka just happened this weekend, and like even the drivers themselves were like, I don't even really remember seeing anybody else throughout the race. And so, I mean, you're gonna get good and bad publicity on any post, but the idea of like, especially I think in situations where it's like a clear and obvious infraction, like I don't know, you could make the argument that somebody's going to feel one way or the other every time on a call. But I feel like there are plenty of cases where like the person that did get the penalty is like, yeah, I did that. And rightfully so. And I think in those cases, at least, you know, we were hoping to get to do that with the Hydro Sim night a little bit. I think the driving was a bit cleaner than we expected it to be. Hectic, albeit, but we don't get a lot of opportunities to actually explain the rules to fans without just having to, say it and have them picture it in their head. I think that could be it could be an interesting idea.
Y'all were clicking off heats like HRL. They were going too fast. I had no time to explain nothing.
Mark Webber would have been proud. I don't know if he was watching, but he would have been proud.
We'd be talking to somebody, and then all of a sudden it's like, next heat out. Oh, right. In the 3-minute gun, didn't have much time.
No. It's crazy how much shorter that 3 minutes feels than 5. Like it really is only a 2-minute difference, but it just feels so much shorter than that.
Yeah, I think a lot of races could do it. I mean, think of how much more racing you could get in if you cut out 2 minutes from warm-ups. You don't need to warm these things up. Just get out there and race.
I think especially in HRL with the assigned lanes, I think the 3 minutes is totally doable.
Yeah, for sure. Even with fighting for lanes, you're not parking as long. I mean, some of the games you're kind of limiting the amount of games, but especially big courses that get rough. Like there's no sense in going out there and doing a bunch of donuts before the heat even starts.
It probably even helped the fans, like with the fighting for lanes format. I know some of the fans struggle to actually know when the start is, and feel like you narrow down that warm up a little bit to where all the boats leave at the same time, hit the start a little bit better at the same time. I think it would help overall, probably.
Yeah. So you think about that. I mean, I know HRL brought that up once, but their worry was they have so many heats, so many boats, that it's hard to get boats in and out of the water. So you're going to wind up having a delay. So unless you find a way to bring in delays, like, and make them like hey, we're taking a 15-minute break while we kind of catch up here, I don't know if it would benefit. I think it just gets heats off better. The warm-up period is you can get hot dogs if you're a fan. There's really no anticipation before the heat, especially in HRL. Obviously, H1 APBA, you have the anticipation of like who's where. That's what's hard about the live stream last year. I felt like, especially H1 side, you'd be trying to watch it like, all right, I want to see where Corey's at, and the camera's on like turn 2 and he's in turn 1, and as a driver, because we know how fighting for lanes is, something's going on down there and we're missing it.
Yeah, the amount of times I watched H1 heats and it's like they're showing one corner or one side of the course and they're like, oh, and Andrew cut the lower end, and it's like, shoot, well, who else is down there? Like,
Right.
where's everybody else at? So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I definitely
It
think
must be one of them things. I mean, obviously we had Corey on talking about the live stream this year. They're going to be updated, obviously, but it must be like one of them things that would be kind of cool, that if we as drivers could explain to the person running the live stream, like, hey, this is probably how it's going to go. Like, this person's going to do this, because we all kind of have an idea. We have a game plan. 2 team boats are going to be together, whatever. Like, this is where to watch the action. So I think that's what they're going to need to do, is train them. Have someone that knows how to do it to be able to put it on the stream.
Yeah,
and I think
go ahead, Us.
just as they build the stream, hopefully they can get that one person that follows it all the way through, so they can really get like just built up all the way through, no behind the scenes even. And
yeah, definitely. I think it's going to be cool.
That's
I was
something
actually
you see
just
with, like,
thinking today, like, how could we live stream Edgewood in these other races? Like, just do small live stream instead of a cell phone. Could we hook a camera up and do it here on Riverside and Facebook and YouTube? Like, can we simplify it? Or I'm not sure. Like, because obviously cell phone's good, but it's more for us. Like, and you can't see much half the time, and you need a good commentator like Caitlin and Chris. They're probably the best at doing the live streams from the phone, because they're actually commentating, especially Chris. He gets all excited about it.
Yeah. Yeah, moms are fun to listen to, but maybe not for people that root for other boats.
Yeah, not when y'all are out there. Because half the time, I forget what race it was she's watching, and I think it might have been Bob and Tonawanda, and she got light or something, and she like threw the phone. I'm like, what happened?
No. That was Caesar's Creek and Timmy's boat this year.
Yeah, yep, she did it there too.
I remember watching that.
She's done that a couple times.
Oh yeah, there's a couple where the phone ends up on the ground at the end of the stream. You can see it.
Yeah.
No, I do. I think that's, as the live stream becomes more of like a mainstream thing. I'd argue it's almost a requirement at this point. How do you do that at the least cost possible? You obviously want to put out a good show. Boat racing is interesting because I think just the contrast of the boats on the water and everything, it requires pretty good picture, as does any racing. It's hard to understand racing when you can barely tell the difference between the boats or the difference between the cars. But I think technology has evolved so much that it can be simplified to some degree. And I'm not saying anybody's doing it more complicated. Like, I think we should just keep adding more at the moment.
We look at sites like Lake Apacon took the bull by the horns, and they had a production company coming into it. They're a local production company. I'm not sure what that costs for them or if it's a sponsorship thing, but they had 3 or 4 cameras, different things going on, and I think they learned some things doing it for the first year. This year they're going to do it, or last year they're going to do it again this year, and they're going to get better at it. And I mean, for a race site, if you have that live stream now, you're getting out there to other people watching, obviously, and you can use that as a marketing tool for your tourism departments and all that. But you're also hitting record on those cameras, and you're getting everything that you can use year round to promote events. I just think it's a no-brainer, because you're going to pay people to, what could the cost be? I don't know. I've never asked cost, like, for, say, this production company. What could it be versus hiring a camera crew or a couple people with a camera? Like, they're so readily available now. It's not like we were 15 years ago, where it's like, I throw a camera in you guys' hand and be like, hey, go film for me. Like, people are out there willing to do it. We have lost our kids. Like, so if there's any kids in the pits that want a Chasin Tails camera, we don't pay well, but you'll be on Chasin Tails.
Snow cones.
Yeah, no free footage anymore.
No, I mean, even nowadays with just the Starlink and kind of tools like that, cameras you can buy off Amazon, probably the production that the 3 or 4 of us could put together at any given race could probably be just as good as what you see on a lot of other racing videos out there. So and at
Yeah.
not a bad cost.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of roundy round tracks are doing it. If they're not on Flow Racing, they're doing a little camera and being on Facebook. I mean, it's again eyeballs, especially like for us in the summer. I mean, people are out on boats. We kind of lose the amount of people that could be watching versus like here in the winter. I feel like a lot of times on a Saturday night you're bored. If you're not out, you're looking at your phone trying to find racing and stuff like that. So there's a niche market that we kind of miss, but there's also people that are, like I said, out on boats that might want to watch some boat racing. Like you're on a boat, want to watch some boat racing. So just got to have it out there as much as we can. But leading into it, we got our first event coming up. You guys got dates on Caesars Creek testing? Because I sure really didn't pay it.
Yeah, April 26th and 27th.
All right. So I think I saw a post Billy Noonan made. There's a lot of boats going. A lot of people want to take up on that test session time.
Yep. Yeah, I'm hoping for better weather than last year. I know last year everybody was able to get some kind of like straight runs and maybe like one turn, but the way the wind was blowing, they kind of took half the course out of play. But hopefully a little better this year. We've talked about it on earlier podcasts, like some of the earlier episodes, talking about not this past race season, the season before, but like when John had that dominating year in the 92, he said he did upwards of like 200 laps of testing in that year, something like that.
Yeah.
That's more than you're going to get in a season.
Ever. Yep.
And then this year we had
was worn out by then.
Yeah.
They had to rebuild it after, I'm sure.
Yeah, right.
Then it was Eddie Canfouche there last year turning laps, and look what that did.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, they showed up.
Yeah, you don't get, I mean, that's one thing you don't, especially HRL. I mean, APBA too, if you're chasing, you just want to finish good. You don't have that many events in the APBA schedule. But HRL, you can't give up a heat because it screws up your whole weekend. So if you want to test a prop, like, hey, it's either going to work or it's not, and we're going to give up probably 2 positions, and then that's going to make us 2 positions less in the final. Like, it's test time's crucial, and them Canadians get us because they can go test anytime on the river up there. So we need to get it while we can.
I mean, I think you see it, especially in 2.5 and 2,500 last year. Eddie showed up to test and tune, did quite a bit of driving. I won't say laps because I couldn't do full laps, and then with the brand new power plant in the boat, and showed up at Cambridge and won right out of the box. Jacob, who had one weekend of racing under his belt, went to Edgewood, got that Honda and that boat dialed in pretty well, and went out and won Cambridge the next weekend or 2 weekends after.
Yeah,
I mean, proof's in the pudding.
For sure. A lot to go on. Obviously, we just had I forget the guy's name that was on with the 5-liter. He'll be there. A lot of boats. I see here some aren't going because they're not ready. Some aren't going because they're upset. It's boat racing, the drama. We got to stir it up. Well, what course size do they run there when they test? Is it a mile and a quarter?
That's a good question.
Whatever they feel like throwing out buoys.
Yeah,
I know when we used to test in Cambridge, we just throw out some buoys.
I'm guessing it's not GPSed and like specifically set up. I'm thinking just something reasonable looking. Just judging from what I saw like on Facebook Live last year, I would guess not much bigger than a mile if it's not a mile itself.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. When we used to do it in Cambridge, we'd throw out a couple of buoys, and then we got Cooter out there, and he's like, I got the coordinates for the Cambridge course. We're going to put out 10 buoys. I'm like, dude, 2's fine. I just need point A to point B. I'll figure it out. I've got enough laps around this course. I'm pretty sure I know. But then you go back and look at the GPS with no buoys, and you're like, I didn't run the same lap twice.
Shit, I'll say there's a couple races I've looked at my GPS and I haven't done 2 laps the same.
With buoys.
Yeah, with buoys. It's bad.
That's surprising, Austin, because you get so goddamn close to every single one of them. You'd think that would just be one line all the way around.
You would think.
There's people that just take enjoyment out of getting close to the buoy, and Austin's one of them.
I definitely got it from Billy, I think. He used to scare the crap out of me just sitting there spinning them. And
yeah.
I feel like it's different with skiffs, though.
Yeah, they don't really have pointy things to pop them unless you really screw up.
Yeah, just the entire nose of it.
Yeah. I did that.
Yeah.
Cambridge one year, yep.
Yeah,
I remember one Jimmy Stewart hit in Wildwood. and that thing went like 300 feet in the air. It seemed like it was off to space. Came down, it was still floating. Unbelievable.
I think down in Lakeland, me and Michelle actually landed on top of the one. I remember seeing it pretty much just above the tip of the bow, and then the whole thing just totally disappeared, and yeah, it was gone.
Chewed it up, spit it out. But then we go to Edgewood, Maryland. I'm glad that race, there was some talk about it not happening. I'm glad that race is happening. It's a good little race, good course, good water. Hopefully don't have the weather we've had in the past. It's a committee, the KNRA committee, just trying to do everything they can to put on more races here in the Region 4. Obviously, not having Ken Island anymore kind of put them into, all right, we got to find some spots. They took over to Cambridge one in July, and then now this one here in May. I know I'm happy, and my wife's happy that it's not on Mother's Day, but I know some people wished it was, so it was back to back with Cambridge, but I still think them Canadians need to come down because it's a perfect course to test on for what they run up in most of the year up there, especially Cambridge, but it's tighter than Cambridge. Great place to test, going to have a lot of competition. Hopefully a full field of 350s, 2.5s. We'll see. It's hard to tell, man. Boat racers are so secretive. Yeah. How many surveys we get back on who's coming where? Not many, right?
I don't know.
Like 15, I think.
Jeez.
Well, I remember, and then when HRL was working out their Honda stuff, they sent out a survey regarding some of the questions. It got like 6 responses or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't even know why I would be secretive about that.
Yeah, we were on a GPA call Thursday, and they were talking about who signed up or whatever, and they're like, we've only got 2 responses. One was Huey and one was Ronnie. I'm like, yeah, power for the old guys. Let's go. On top of it.
For them.
It looks like Jonathan's in the waiting room. Let's go ahead and bring him in.
Let's do it.
One was Huey.
Hey, Jonathan.
Hey, Jonathan. How's it going?
Going good, you guys?
All right. Who paid you more, H1 or HRL, to put that shirt on? Why? H1 paid you more,
No, and I just
obviously.
grabbed the first shirt. There we go. And that was it. It came out of the drawer.
There you go. So, man, it's exciting. You're refereeing at the top level, but we got to go back to your days and starting out watching your dad race. What was that like, and what led you to where you're at now?
Well, like most of you guys here, I was born into boat racing. I was at my first race. I was 3 weeks old. From there, I grew up going to Valleyfield every year and have never missed a year of Valleyfield. Dreamt of it to go out and race. And then when I was 9 years old, got into the J stocks. I was at an outboard race with my dad and saw kids racing. I ran up to him and said, I want to do it. I want to do it. I want to do it. And he got the grin and said, okay, we're getting back into it. And then, from there, ran the outboards right up until I was 16. Got into the T class after that. Ran that for about 4 or 5 seasons. And then from there, stepped up into the 5-liter 350. And then after that, I think it was in 2013, I just had enough. Priorities were changing. Wanted to look to buy a house. Boat was getting expensive. Was getting tired of always getting into wrecks. I had 2 big wrecks in the 350 class. It was getting expensive. I decided it was time to step aside. I wasn't having fun anymore. Next thing you know, an opportunity came knocking that they were looking for a chief referee. And you can sort of say the rest after that was history. I had been reffing hockey for almost 10 years at the time, so refereeing I'd already had experience in it, and I just never expected to be refereeing boat racing. So when the opportunity presented itself, I said, why not? I was going to be at the races anyways, even though I wasn't racing. I was going to end up with a crew or in the grandstands anyway, so I said, why not? And then here we are today. Like I said, I would never have dreamt that I would have gotten an opportunity to be working at H1. Every driver kind of dreams of it, and I guess now I'm not racing, to have the opportunity to do as an official has been the biggest honor for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. The stepping stones to get there are pretty cool. But all right, let's talk. You said about refereeing hockey, and then you transition to boat racing. Who has worse attitudes, boat racers or hockey players, when something goes wrong?
It's hard to say. When something goes wrong with boat racers, I'll tell you the biggest problem with hockey is the parents.
Fair enough.
Parents are worse sometimes than the kids. Yeah, no, I'd say boat racers when things don't go their way. But like I said, I've been on that end of of it, so I understand that, when you get a call or no call or something goes wrong, the frustration's there. You're putting so much time and money and effort into it that I completely understand everybody that comes at me frustrated or mad or whatnot. So, like I said, I always understand as long as you have respect, I'll gladly talk to you. But the minute that you have no respect or screaming and yell at me, then I won't give you the time of day. I'm always willing to talk, but it's always in means of respect.
For sure. I think the main thing that helps with that is not being able to talk to you to the end of the day. Calms a
Yeah.
lot of people down. If you could
No
be like,
doubt.
hey, come up in the next heat, I don't think it would go as well.
Well, no, I mean, it gives time for the people to cool down. It gives me time to analyze the situations, see what's going on, and at the same time, we got a show to run. We can't be stopping a race to have a chat with drivers that aren't happy. My philosophy is I've made a call or no call, it's not going to change. So whether we talk about it as soon as the race is done or at the end of the day, my call is going to stay the same no matter what.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's what I've enjoyed about having you on the referee stand is that you've been in the seat. You understand some of the things that some other referees don't about what the boats do and that kind of thing. You've been in situations we've been in, but you made, like you said, make a call, you stand by it. That's it. We live as you get a good call, you get a bad call. Sometimes it is what it is. And it's honestly taught me a lot of respect for what you guys do that like, it's not like I can argue it. So I'm going to tell you, hey, I think I had a lane here. I gave a lane here. And if you're like, no, look at the drone video. It's like, okay, it's all a learning experience. And no matter how old you are in the sport, you continue to learn. And I really feel like the drones have helped us understand a lot of these penalties if they happen. How much have they helped you make the calls and be able to stand by them a little clearer?
It's made all the difference in the world. We got the angle of being above and you can really see what's going on. Before that, you were standing at the starting line. I had 4 turn judges, one on either inside and one on either outside with iPads trying to film, and the angles of perspective were not the same, and they never were. And then when there was calls or no calls, it just became this is what I said, this is what I saw, and that's the bottom line. I had nothing to back it up because we didn't have the footage to go back and to show the drivers or to back myself up. So it's made all the difference in the world. I think it's for the drivers as much for me. It just makes it a lot clearer, a lot easier to make calls, and to be able to show drivers at the end of the day exactly what I saw. Is just calmed a whole lot of arguments down. Like I said before, we had drones. Driver comes hot at the end of the day. Oh, he cut me off, or I didn't do this, and then I'd be saying, well, yes, you did, and we weren't getting anywhere. It was the same argument of, like I said. Now with the drone footage, it's here it is. This is what I saw, and this is the call. There's still times, even with drone footages, I might miss a call. I might not have made the right call. When you're in the heat of the moment, things happen. I still use professional sports. They have instant replay. They have all the technology in the world, and they still manage to miss calls, or, as to the fan's perspective or anybody's perspective. So even with all the technology, it still comes down to a judgment, and calls will be made, calls will be missed. Like I said, at the end of the day, I just stand by my decisions and learn from the mistakes and just move on.
There you go. I respect that. Kyle, you got something to say?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's cool. And I mean, I think one thing I think it's probably in part due to the drones, but also just in part to, the crew you guys have up on the line. And then, I think a lot of in the past, like the chief referee wasn't always just worried about making calls on the race course. There's all the other stuff that goes on the line that they have to worry about. And I think you're probably in both circuits kind of given that luxury of focus on the race course. Like I remember when you gave me a penalty in Valleyfield, like I had my boat wasn't even on the trailer yet, and I already saw it in the app, and I was like, that's crazy. Like I didn't think you guys would have been able to make calls that fast, and two, also have them up on the app. And the advancements that we've had with footage and technology in general, and then just the advancements with the people on the line and the work being done has made, I think, the sport more followable, not only as racers trying to keep up with where we stand in terms of points and stuff like that, but also for anybody that's tuning into the app and trying to follow along there.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a work in progress. I think it's been 12 years now. I've been with HRL. I remember we started this out. It was Nick. I forget it. It was with on Rob Stevenson's crew. He's the one that got this whole program going. And we were starting off with drones, and we were looking at it off of his remote control, and we advanced to better drones and instant replays, and we have full setups now where I have slow motion. At the end of the race, you go back in slow motion and go reel by reel and zoom in, zoom out. We've been perfecting this now for the last, like I said, for the last 10 years. And it only just keeps getting better. And, we've now incorporated this into H1. And we're just going to keep improving. Last year, we took a big leap forward into using the drones. And we're just going to keep improving. And we're going to be even better this year. And and keep going forward. The whole team is working their butts off to get the officiating side down and to try to get to a level I think where HRL's at, where we're able to show footage and use the drone footage and use the instant replay. And because that's the way the future is now. For officiating, and especially with hydroplanes, is you got to have the drones. Without that, you just can't make a conclusive call.
I think
go ahead, Kyle.
The point Brandon made earlier about like helping the drivers. I think the thing with HRL actually being able to show drivers footage at the end of the day, if there's something, whether they want to dispute, or I know there's tons of people that quite literally just want to see it. I think that goes a long way with drivers, because what you see in the cockpit is not necessarily what you see from 50 feet above, or a different angle on the course that is still relevant. I mean, obviously, as drivers, we all think what we see is the most important, and in the moment, it absolutely is. But there's 5 to 8 other boats on the course, and a picture or an image that shows you everything going on could really shed a lot of. I know in the case when I spoke with you in Valleyfield, seeing an angle from one way up the course versus from the turn back towards the course just looked different, and I know as a driver that means a lot to me, being able to see those different angles and actually see what I see on the water from somebody else's perspective.
Yeah, and like I said, it's as much of a tool it is for me as I like to use it with the drivers. Like you said it, showing you guys I've got nothing to hide. And I did the same thing with H1 this year, just incorporating videos, showing guys what I see, what I made my calls off of, whether you agree or disagree. At least I'm showing you my perspective, where my standards are. This is what I'm seeing. And it's evolved. GoPros, don't give, just because of the angles, you think certain people are getting your lane closed, but when you're up and above and you see where the rooster tails are and you see the openings between the boats, that's where it is. The GoPros, unfortunately, they're great action shots. They give unbelievable footage for the fans in those promo videos, but when it comes to officiating, those GoPros, unfortunately, just don't do justice on perspectives on the water.
For sure. Now, on the side of making calls, obviously you said you used to have turn judges and things like that. Now with the drones, is it all on you, or do you kind of have a team with both H1 and HRL that kind of look at it together?
I have a team with HRL and with H1. With HRL, I got one guy that's on the drone, and his job is he's going to watch the drone the whole race, and I keep my eyes out on the water. And then if he sees something or we need to look at something, he'll call me over, and then we look it over. But on H1, I got 2 officials. I got Sam and Matt, who are my assistants, being that there's such big courses. You can't keep your eyes everywhere, not like on HRL tracks. So
yeah, you pretty much got the whole vision on HRL, them short little things.
Yeah, well, exactly. Want to or not, we can't have our eyes everywhere, and you got to keep your eyes more on the drones, especially during the warm up, where you got boats cutting course and going here, going there, everyone trying to get get that lane one. So it's a lot harder in terms of watching a race. So we got to keep our eyes on the drones and so we got to make sure we got one eyes on one drone and one on the other, and we even got a rover that's in the middle. A lot more moving parts on each one compared to HRL. Normally, me warm up's my relaxed time with HRL, and with H1 it's the other way around. It's almost more relaxed during the race than the pre-race because
I was just about to say. I feel like in HRL that warm up periods where you get your breaks throughout the day, maybe go grab a drink or something, and no, not with H1.
No, exactly.
All
With
right,
the
I got
predetermined
something
lanes, you know.
this year. I'm taking people out in the warm up because Jonathan ain't watching. You've heard it here first, folks.
We still record the warm ups, so I'll be able to go back and look at it.
Dang it.
So no, but I mean, even with the predetermined lanes, you know, guys aren't looking to cut each other off. You know, there might be some incidents that happen, but like I said, with the fighting for lanes, you know, guys are doing everything they can to get that lane one. So I mean, I think often, like I said, the warm up period is often harder to officiate than it is the actual race.
For sure. All right, so that leads you just led it into the next question about, obviously you've had assigned lanes in HRL for a while. It's worked. Fans seem to love it. What's your take for H1? Do you think it'll ever go that way? Does the competition need to be better? Do we need more boats? What's your opinion if you have one?
You know, either or. You know, it's two different styles of racing. You know, I've been brought up with predetermined lanes. I've gotten used to it. The H1 is definitely a new challenge. Let's put it that way. I think with the way the competition is now with 6 boats, I think the fight for lanes is probably the better way to go. Just allows the boats that might not have that extra power to fight for the lane and try to have a chance for the podium as if they start on the outside. They're not going to get that chance. So I think as it stands now, I think the fight for lanes is the best course for them. In a future, who knows, you know. But as for me, I'm there to officiate. So if we go with predetermined lanes, we do. If we stick with the fight for lanes, hey, I'm just going to do what I got to do. You know, we're working hard with the competition committee to make the rules a little more clear, make it more black and white, take out those vague areas. Just to make it.
There's a lot of them. I've been reading that thing like you told me to.
Well,
there's a lot of vague areas.
We've been spending all winter going through that whole book, so there's going to be new copies coming out shortly.
Good.
Of getting rid of those black and, you know, those gray areas, and we're going to the black and white, making it more defined terms, and, you know, getting rid of interference, stuff like that. You know, interference was a vague word, as you asked all 4 of us, and the definition of interference is probably different for all 4 of us. So we're just trying to make it more standardized, black and white, make it easier to call and make it easier for drivers to understand at the same time.
There you go. Is the score procedure going to stay the same, or can you not announce that yet? And is it going to be different at different events?
Nope, the starting procedure, everything's going to be staying the same as far as I know, unless something changes within the next couple of months. But we're sticking with that procedure. It seemed to work real well last year. Like I said, maybe a couple of hiccups here and there to get figured out, but for the most part, I think it worked well. We got rid of the 80-mile-an-hour rule, which I think was one of the biggest issues, just not being able to consistently call that and just making the starts not that interesting. So now I think we've added a bit of the fight for lanes, when not having as much boats parking it. They still do, but not as much where they're parking it for the whole warm-up now with the way it was set up. So, as far as I know, we're sticking to what we had last year.
Yeah. So that is interesting. What do you think the reason for there's no real trolling like you would see in the 5 liters, 2.5 stocks? They kind of all cruise around. I mean, they're probably at like 50 mile an hour. It's obviously under the 80, but nobody really parks at the exit pin. And is that because of the score up being whatever the time is at the start finish line and you got to somewhat race back around?
Well, that's it. I think that's one of the reasons is we want to have it at the score up at the start line, is to kind of force boats not to park and troll. I mean, you can, but you know, you got to be moving when you hit that start line, because if you're coming too slow, someone's just going to hit the start line full speed and they'll be able to get around you in turn 1. It was just part of, I think, our plan to try allow boats to troll and fight for lanes, but also try to limit them to the amount of trolling that they can do.
Yeah, and I think it's working.
Good job. Yeah.
Yeah, and it didn't, and it's funny because obviously I don't know how much you saw in limited hydroplanes. We tried that years ago, but it didn't work. You'd still park, and nobody could leapfrog you because like a 350 can accelerate so fast. 2.5s as well, but so it's interesting to see that it works in unlimited, but did not work in limited hydroplanes.
Oh, that's it. I mean, these boats, if they get too slow, it takes them so long to just get back up to speeds. So someone can take advantage of that and coming at full speed can just, leapfrog once you cross the start finish line, getting into the turn, or even out on the backstretch. We've seen it happen quite a few times that boats have hit the start on the outside and were able to creep their way in coming down the backstretch.
Yeah. I know we saw it a couple times this year. I was hoping to see it more, but I think there were just a lot of cases where, especially early season, people were still figuring that start procedure out. I mean, I know from watching over the last several, 5-6 years, how like pinpoint some of those guys are with their routines in the start. And, takes a little bit of time to develop that, but it was cool. I can't remember what race it was, but I think it was Dustin hit a flyer on everybody and was able to come over all the way to at least 2. And I think he ended up winning that heat. So, I mean, that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. It was a change of pace. Everyone had to figure it out. But I can say that, during the qualifying heats, guys took it a little easier. But when the finals came around, let me tell you, everybody went guns blazing, and there was all kinds of strategies going on every race, or every final. So it was like I said, it was a challenge just to keep up and seeing who was where and who was cutting this and doing that. It was, it keeps you on your toes for sure.
Yeah,
and I think
I'll go.
All right. Yeah, I think it's wild because I've always seen it. Obviously, from limited, you can only cut from back to front, but in unlimited, you can do multiple places, and you got to have that roadmap that you give out a driver's meeting to figure it out. I think if the fans understand all that, and like again, go back to the HRL, like having a great app that can be used, that fans can see what's going on and that kind of thing, it's exciting and it's the way to go, especially for 6 boats, in my opinion. But the average fan doesn't understand that. Like, why is he all going from front to back to front? You got people parked. It's very confusing. So I think that's just things, obviously, you're saying about cleaning up the rule book. I think the new live stream people and working, just trying to figure it out to where fans understand it better. It'll be good long term.
Yeah, and I think so too. H1 went and picked up Jenik, so I think she's going to have a lot to bring to the table too, into helping all this out on the media side and whatnot, and help bring ideas to help incorporate these fans. And I like that idea of the map of going out to the fans and knowing where they can cut. I'll be honest, I never even thought of that. It was just a challenge just to figure it out for drivers meeting, just to get these guys, every weekend, because that was the thing with me last year. I showed up in Alabama and this was all new to me, right? I've been doing HRL for 12 years. We've had predetermined lanes. For me, a warm-up map was not necessary in essence. So it was all new to figure this out. Okay, and had to every weekend is figure it out with my team. Okay, this we're going to cut, and this we're allowed, and we're looking at, okay, last year this is what they did, so okay, this is what we're going to apply this year. And then to figure out the score up time, that was the other one. What time we were going to put it at. We were looking at times from last year and trying to set it at a good time where we don't want boats being able to troll for too long. So I think we did not too bad. The score up times, who knows, we might readjust them this year. We might sit back and tweak it a bit and try and make it a little more interesting. We'll see. It was a lot more challenging than I expected. I knew it was going to be a big challenge H1. But yeah, like I said, just figuring out those course maps and figuring out where guys can cut and whatnot, that was a whole lot of fun.
Yeah. And you said it too, and I think it gets confusing for the fans, is that I feel like the games don't start until the final. And the qualifiers, you might play a game, but you're more trolling. You're not doing all the cutting and getting real aggressive until the final. And I think that's what confuses fans. And it's just one of them things. Again, the HydroSim could help if we do videos of that. Other videos are like, hey, watch last year's race. Watch all the games being played. Things like that I don't think we've ever realized as a media team that matter a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to have the old heads in racing that are like, it's only boat racing if you fight for lanes. HRL's probably heard that, still hearing that for the past 12 years, but the racing's so good. And who knows? We could go back to fighting for lanes and it could be a better show. Who knows? But right now it's working. So yeah, I just think it's all teaching. Obviously, you as the referee didn't even know what was going on. So now we know the fans don't really understand it either. So I think this year is going to be good for sure.
Yeah, we're putting in a lot of effort to make it better. You know, as your point, you're saying guys are going all out for the finals. I think also the fact that, you know, unfortunately we're only getting 6 boats a weekend, they know that they're pretty much going to make the final so that they don't have to. Yes, they're chasing high points, so they want to go get those points. You know, but at the end of the day, they want that final win, so they're trying to conserve their equipment, trying to conserve knowing that they're probably going to make that final, and then once the final comes out, then that's where they go all out. Maybe in a future where we can finally maybe see 12 boats again, maybe that'll be a different story, and the qualifiers will be a little more aggressive, or maybe, like you said, this format wouldn't work. Who knows? But, you know, I think for right now, I think we have the right recipe for the fleet we have.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think just looking at it from that perspective, like that, you know, the situation you have now is the situation you have now. You know, of course we want 12, 15, 20, 50 boats. We want as many boats as we can get, but, you know, we don't have that many boats. Like you said, different formats are going to work for different fleets, you know, different style classes, and being willing to change and knowing that it can be required at times. Growing up, I think it's changed a lot in the last 10 years, but growing up, it felt like boat racing just was so unwilling to change, like in any capacity. And, you know, I'm glad that that's changed over my lifetime, but I don't know. I think it's done great things for boat racing, and I'm pretty confident it's going to continue to.
Well, for sure. Like I said, I've never, you know, I was asked this question when I got brought on last year. Oh, you're used to the predetermined lanes, and do you think that's the best format? And, you know, like I said, it may be the best format for HRL. You know, doesn't necessarily mean it's the best solution for H1. Not necessarily. It works for us. You know, we look at all types of different racing. There's all kinds of different starting procedures. You know, if you look at F1, they're all staggered and at a standstill, and NASCAR, they're rolling starts. And so there's all kinds of different starting procedures out in the racing world. So, I mean, it's just, like I said, we got to figure out what's best for the sport, and just got to be willing to evolve. I think that's the biggest thing. In anything in life is just being able to evolve and accept change and be willing to make changes when necessary.
Exactly. I got one question on a rule. It says that a hand must be on the boat until 5 minutes has the 5-minute gun went off. Does it say that the hand has to be real? Can it be a mannequin arm, like a 10-footer?
It's got to be a real hand, but I'm sure someone's going to try that rule out now. Now that you've brought that up.
Well, we're gonna have an extendo hand.
An extendo hand, yeah, exactly.
With
Someone's gonna pull that one out, so I'll have to make sure that we write it's a real hand in the rule book now.
Well, I remember years ago. I think that's why they did the 10 to the 5 and 5 to the 5. I swear at Detroit they used to leave before the 5-minute gun and then get out there, and that was really confusing. Like, why is he out there? It hasn't even 5-minute gun hasn't went off. So I'm glad that's gone.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I didn't follow much H1, I guess, back then, but yeah, no, that's the biggest thing is that one hand, and we've actually had teams got called for it this summer. You know, let go of the boat too early. Teams are really looking for any little edge they can get.
Yeah, it's crucial. I mean, dock lineup. I remember years ago in Hampton, we literally, because the boats were parked in the field and you had to drive to the crane. Us and Jeff Bernard, we raced to the crane because we wanted the far crane closest to the race course. And I mean, it determined the lane. There was because we didn't have many cutting places. And if you were on the inside of that guy leaving the dock, you had lane 1. Just stay there with him. And yeah, he beat me because of that. My crew driver, the truck driver, was not as good.
Well, I knew it was a big issue 2 years ago. that whole dock story. I know it caused quite a ruckus because with the way the 80-mile-an-hour rule was written, there was a team that figured it out. They got their boat dropped in first and they walked all the way down the dock to get the dock space they wanted, and no one realized it. And then when that team pulled it off, then it just became, oh, wait a minute, that's our spot.
Yeah.
That was another reason that we were trying to revamp the rules, is to not necessarily allow the dock to be a decision maker. I could be mistaken. I don't think it was. The teams would know more than I will. But I don't think it was that much of an advantage wherever you were on the dock this year.
I think so. I watched most of the finals and saw the games, and I don't feel like it was. There's definitely, I mean, some people left late from the dock, especially Madison final. They left late from the dock, and other people left early. It's just, you never know what game's going to be played until you hit that starter button, and then your plan A is gone. You got to go to plan B, and just don't lose your earbud.
Oh no, that's it. And you think what a driver is going to do, and they pull a 360 and they do something different. And these are all new drivers. I'm still learning their habits once or not. HRL, I know just about everybody's habits, and I know what to expect most of the time from the drivers. So, this was new too, and I'm still learning these drivers and their habits, and still studying them, and like I said, continuing to evolve this year, and I'll continue to try to perfect my craft.
Awesome. I do have a question for the HRL side of things. What do you have against Carl St. Vincent and Joe Less? They were the most penalized drivers, man. It had to be your fault. And Steve's.
My fault. It's okay. I can take it. Yeah, me and Steve, we could take it. I go with what I see on the drone.
350's got to be the hardest to judge. It's got to be.
Yeah, 350's tough. There's every qualifying heat is pretty much a final on almost every race, and it's not easy, and you want to make sure you're making the right call, because with that many boats, one call and your weekend's done.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to make sure that when I'm making a call, I'm making the right call. So I guess there's just some drivers that want that extra edge and don't realize it, and that's why they end up getting calls, unfortunately.
Yeah, Joe, it's all your fault. We did that at the gala when Eddie Camfush came up with the stats. It was like, oh man, this is hilarious. We were going to make them sumo wrestle for being the most penalized drivers. So next year, that'll definitely be a part of the gala.
That'll be definitely interesting. But I would have to see if jumping the gun was calculated in that, because for me that shouldn't count towards your.
That's a good question.
For the most penalized, because everyone's
right. That is true.
You should look into calculating fouls on the water.
That's the only part HRL rule I hate, that takes a points penalty. I'm like, we've had this discussion offhand that like, hey, that's our job, is to nail that start, and like we're going fast. Like I'm gonna finish 8th, whatever, but damn, that points penalty hurts. And I feel like a lot of people go soft on their starts because of it, especially if you're in a championship hunt.
No, for sure. And I think we discussed that the whole reason we went with that points penalty is just to, how can I say, if a heat where everybody jumps, both then ends up winning, it should finish 4th because everyone jumped. Well, the heat afterwards, he wins his heat, he's penalized because everyone else jumped. Also, I think it was more in that term we were looking at the other heats where someone's clean. Well, he's getting penalized for a heat where everybody jumped, or 3/4 of the class, or the heat jumped. So that's where we went with the points reduction, to try to say, well, if you jumped a gun, well, it's penalizing the whole group and not just
that's fair.
one driver.
Yeah, you guys tend to look at things a lot deeper than us racers. Good job. So let's talk about now, you on the HRL refereeing side, Steve Armstrong. I don't know if he's helping this year, but he helped last year. You guys went from banging sponsons to helping each other out, control this thing. How's that been?
Oh, it's been great. Steve's been awesome. He wants to stick around. He said he was interested. He will be in Tonawanda because now Gunther'sville changed their weekend, so I'll be in Brockville this year. Make it another weekend, so my extremely busy summer. But I will be in Brockville, but Steve will still be there to help on the weekends that he can. I still want him around. He did a great job learning. I think he's learning also that it's not easy to differentiate when you're an official and your buddies. That was one thing that was tough for me. And when I went from the racer to the official, well, unfortunately when calls were made, there was some friendships that I can say I lost. People who weren't happy with my calls and, decided they didn't want to talk to me anymore, which is fine. I kind of, knew that was part of the job. So I think, Steve's having a hard time sometimes with that, with people texting him and on the middle of the day, and hey, what's this call and what's this? And so, that comes with the territory, but no, he's doing a great job. And I need a backup. I've always said it. It's not because I was with H1. The way it stands now, I had no backup. So if I got sick on a Saturday morning or Sunday morning and I couldn't go, or something happens, an emergency, I can't make it to the race weekend, I had no backup plan. So, Steve was a great fit. He's a well-respected guy in the pits. We've, like you said, we've gone deck to deck many a times. So there's a great mutual respect between the both of us. And, I'm looking forward to continue to work with him and teach him more of this officiating side of things now.
Yeah. So are you on that late night, Saturday night flight from Tri-Cities to Cambridge with Janik and Brian? Or are you getting out of that one?
No, I won't be going to the test session.
Okay.
I'll be in Cambridge.
What's the referee need to go to a test session for?
Yeah, no, it's a long haul just for a 1 day test. So, we've decided with H1 that I won't be attending. So I'll be in Cambridge.
Okay, cool. Nice. Austin, you got anything to add? You've been quiet.
Not really. You guys have hit a lot of it. Definitely seen a lot of really good things coming out of both leagues the last couple of years, like they've been saying the whole time. And yeah.
Yeah, so I guess Austin, you're kind of bringing it up, but you're not hitting on it. How do you feel? We've talked about it a lot on the show of all the leagues working together. Obviously, you're in there with H1, HRL, Janik now, with GPA, everything. It seems like everybody's gelling and finally going towards the same goal together. How do you feel being deep involved with them all?
I think it's a great thing. I think it's awesome for the sport. I think there was rivalries that kind of got created, with when it was ASHO, HRL, APBA, CBF, H1. It kind of all each was going on their own direction. And I think now that we're all uniting and working together, I think is a great thing. I think it's great for H1 because it's allowing more classes to come in. Better shows for the fans because unfortunately, we can't just have one class out on the water. It's Grand Prix is growing. It's just making things a whole lot better. Now it's Grand Prix. Who knows in the future, what's in store. We just got to keep working together. I think it's important. Keeping everybody on the same page and just working to the same goal, and that's to make the sport better.
Definitely. What's been your favorite H1 site that you went to this year?
Well, there's going to be two. I mean, San Diego is San Diego, right? It's such an awesome site. It's hard to compete with that. The beautiful weather. You're in California, but I gotta say, Madison was awesome. All the history behind it. I felt like a little kid walking into when I drove into the town. I've seen the movies and heard all the great things about it, and even my dad talked about it because he did a year as a turn judge with H1, and he went to Madison and all the great things, and going to see the parade, and for the historical side, it was awesome to go to Madison. So I'm between Madison and San Diego, but like I said, it's tough to beat San Diego's weather.
Yeah, that is true. Guy, you got any points to bring up?
Shoot. I don't know. Well, I'll ask this question because Bipes isn't here, and he would totally ask this question. I know the answer, so I'm gonna rephrase it. Would you put Madison on the same level as Valleyfield? I gotta ask.
In terms of what, the show?
Just like the show, kind of the as a race
Vibes.
site, you know, between the racing, the event, the atmosphere.
I don't think so yet. I know they're making a lot of big moves this year, adding concerts. I mean, I didn't see much of the concert last year. Like I said, I was just doing the tours last year, and everything was new, and I didn't know where I was going, and so I was just tagging along a lot with the each one officials. Um, so I wouldn't say they're there yet. I know they're working hard. Valleyfield, you know, has been a work in progress for so long, and want to or not, with the HRL crew behind it, that our race program is on point. We're just getting shows off back to back to back, and then all the concerts and everything else has been there. I think Madison's working to get there. I think they're doing a lot of the right things, but they're not just quite to the level of Valleyfield just yet. But they have all that historical background to go with it, just like Valleyfield.
I personally, and I've told Bipes this, I think the one thing that Madison lacks, and he listened, because I think they're really giving it a shot this year, is Valleyfield has how many heats go off a day? Like
50.
60 or something crazy like that. Maybe not that many, but some crazy
We're
number of
near
heats
the 30 heats, if not more, in a day, easily.
in a day. And I think
Yeah.
there's probably that many total at Madison.
Yeah, for the whole weekend.
Yeah. So, and adding the skiffs, they've had 350/pro lights, the last couple years. They got the 2.5s again this year. I think that's a big step in the right direction for them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it is great, but unfortunately, the tough part to realize behind that is the logistics that come with the boats. You need the cranes, you need the dock space, and that's the great thing about Valleyfield, right? They've got 6, 7 cranes going all the way down, and they've got the unlimited dock space, so you never run out of dock space there. So, sometimes, sites want to add in all these extra boats, but if you don't have the cranes or the dock space to do it, it makes it tough to put on a show, or a fluent show, I should say, because, getting boats in and out is not always easy. But no, they're definitely going in the right direction, adding the skiffs and whatnot. That's just going to bring another element to the show for the fans.
Yep, I agree. God Bipes is in the comments, and he said no tents for the officials at Madison this year. He's going to let you bake.
Sorry, I had to put you on the spot.
That's not the place I won't be not without a tent.
No, for sure. For sure. But like I said, no, Madison is doing a lot of great things. I was amazed with the site itself, and the whole historical side to it. It was an absolute blast. And
Yeah.
I couldn't believe the prices of food there. It was pretty at the little bar, I think it was the Shipley's, where it was like $2 for a beer, and I'm going, before the parade, grab a beer and a Coke, and the guy goes $5, and I went, for just beer? He goes, no, for everything. And I just like, here in Quebec, you're not getting away with a beer for under $12, So
No. It's definitely different. Yeah, I think we learned that through this winter, with them losing the boat and then now gaining it back, like how much it means to that town. It's really cool. Obviously, it's kind of tick and tack with Valleyfield, how much that event means to the town of Valleyfield, the history behind it, everything. It was cool. Obviously, we went there in 2021 with the GP, and obviously we've never went there before because it led up to Valleyfield, and now it's one of those we're not going to miss because it's so much like Valleyfield to us, with the history and things like that. Sometimes the people there, like Cobb Wipes, is a pain in the butt, but especially when Taco Bell runs out of tortillas, it's all his fault. But another point I wanted to bring up is your dad, being a big part of that J-Stock program. How cool is it for you starting there in your career, seeing it come back in a big way for HRL?
Oh, it's been awesome. My dad has put so much time and effort into that program, and to help rebuild the novice class. I'll say in Quebec especially, because if you look at the amount of drivers coming, especially out of the Quebec area, there was none. I think I was if you look in the like past 10, 15 years, there was myself. You had Joan and Christian's daughters that raced a couple of years in the J stocks, A stock, and that was pretty much it. There was no future there. The outboards, there's not a whole lot out here. So it was hard to get these younger kids into boat racing, right? Because they're just starting the 2.5, and there's no T class really anymore. So to see it take off like it has, and to see it flourish, and the amount of people that want to keep adding to it is great. And it's what I like even the most is it's not just racing families that have joined. We've got a lot of new blood in the sports. You look at JP Guillet as one. He got one. He started one with his son. And this year, his daughter joined in. Now his other daughter joined in, and he went and got a 2.5 also. So he's going to have 4 boats this summer. That's
awesome.
It's going to be
so cool.
Interesting to see how he handles all of that. But, it's just that was new blood that wasn't in the sport before, right? He didn't have family members or anybody to pass it down. And, there's all kinds of in that J class that are just progressing. We still have a few. Sylvain Dorez kid is coming in this year. We had Mark's kids. Dominic Maisonneuve. So we have a few that are still from the racing family. But, to see this new blood come in has just been unbelievable. And like I said, I couldn't be more proud of my dad for to see this come together with the amount of hours he's put into this to find sponsors and to find the boats and to find the people. And, it's been truly amazing.
For sure. It's incredible what he's put together. I mean, all the pieces and making it easy for families to jump in and give it a whirl or get a boat, put it together. I love seeing the pictures of like the kids kind of building their boats together with their parents and things like that. It just kind of gives you a breath of fresh air in the sport. The only thing I say is now we're at a point where we need to give them somewhere to go after this. We need to maybe detune the Honda bring back the T-boat class, bring back a starter class. Stepping stone, and then they have the boat that once they're ready to move up to the next one, they just get a new tune and remove the restrictor plate and head on to 2500 and good luck.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, we've had this discussion already, of the 2500 and the 2.5 class, the future, and that stepping stone I think is going to be huge. Like I said, it's just more projects having to evolve. Unfortunately, the T class kind of died out once me and Steve decided to step in or move on to bigger classes. That's where it kind of died off because that's probably where I had the most fun. I'll be honest with you. My best races were in the T class, and that's where I learned the most. It was fun driving the 350 with all that power, but I still say my best races and most fun I had was in that T class. Going up against or trying to keep up with you in your boat, but then you had just decking going deck to deck with Steve every weekend was awesome.
Right. Yeah, those years were good. I mean, all the Shanes, the Brownings, everyone had good boats, and it was exciting. I still say half the stuff I learned was from back then, especially fighting for lanes with Jimmy Shane. That taught me a lot.
Oh, for sure. He was really good at it. And look where it got him. He's starting the T class and, went on to be a multi-time champion in the unlimited class. So, we all got to start from somewhere.
Exactly.
We brought it up before, but like how many people from your guys' kind of time in T have gone on to higher classes, whether it be 2.5, 350, GP, unlimited, like almost all of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was
not to backtrack too much, but you mentioned like kind of that there's that kind of that gap without the novice class where you up until recently you couldn't get into 2.5 until 16. Now you can at 15 years old with some prior racing experience. And I think that age is like, I think maybe at times, or and maybe I'm just making this up, but it feels like boat racing hasn't necessarily looked at like kids as they grow up, there's kind of a right time to pique their interest with something. And, kind of that 9 to 13 age, like if you're going to get them hooked on something, it's going to be kind of in that range. Once they start, turn 14, 15 years old, start going to middle school, high school, there's a lot of other things to pique their interest. And I know like even when I was in that age, like I stopped going to as many boat races. Now, if I would have gotten hooked on racing prior to that, I probably wouldn't have. I got that bug again after after I graduated and, was off to college and, started going during the summers. But I think if you can get kids into it, which the novice class is doing now, and then even bringing down that age for that next step class, that's a huge way to get, like you said, new blood, but as well as some of the kids that, are involved in families. And it's not like that's hard. It seems like everybody that's raced that's got kids, they end up doing it one way or the other.
No, exactly. It's that young age, and and that was the whole point of that project. Also, with my dad, was to build the boats with their families. The Seattle Boat Museum. That's where he kind of got his idea from. Was they have in their museum there the parents building boats with their kids, and that's where my dad kind of got the idea, and he bought the kit boats and decided to do it. And he was doing the first year he did the workshop. I think they built 5 or 6 of them in the first year. My dad
I remember
was
seeing
there.
that.
Yeah, was there, and building the boats, helping coaching the parents on how to build boats, because that's my dad built our boats. My outboards were built in our basement. So and we even have a garage, so we built an outboard in my dad's workshop in the basement, and then ended up carrying it outside the house. And, that was the whole fun. It was a whole adventure.
Now imagine if you would have built
So
that
that's
thing
where
too
you
wide
get
to
the
get up
peak.
the stairs.
It was all calculated. It was all calculated. It was not easy, let me tell you. It had to be lifted and angled, and yeah, make sure we didn't hit the walls to get it out. And but we got it done. But that was the fun of it, right? And that's where you get hooked and get these kids interested. And you're seeing it now. You've been seeing posts on Facebook of the different drivers repairing their boats and getting ready for the new season. Doing touch-up paint and getting things. And even look at JP Giet. I spoke about it before. He designed his own boat for his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So he did the same thing for his daughter that's starting this year. It's a boat that he designed, and based off some plans, and the boat seems to be running pretty well.
Mm-hmm. They've got some cool paint jobs too. Like
Yeah,
Alex has made some of those look really good, man.
Yeah, no, hats off to Alex. She does some great work on those designs, and the last one that she just did there is pretty darn impressive.
Yeah,
no doubt. I can't get one tape line to not have a bleed through it when I paint boats, and she's got like 50 on them. Impressive. She knows what she's doing.
I think it's cool too. Brandon, you kind of touched on this a couple minutes ago, but like seeing them, make posts after their race weekend about how it went, and doing their post race work and their pre race work, and the boat packed up ready to travel to the race and things like that. And some of them, maybe it's their parents making it, but even them being involved with that, I think is so cool. Because that's something that I think just as boat racing in today's age, we're trying to do more of. And the fact that the youngest, of our sport are already engaging in that and already showing signs of wanting to do that and actually doing it, I think that's such a good sign for things moving forward.
Oh, it definitely is. I mean, once or not, they're born into this generation of social media, and they're probably a lot more knowledgeable than most of us, even know probably more than me. So it's just great for the sport, and it's just what we're all working towards is this getting the sport out there and making it known to more people and more accessible, and that's what brings in sponsors and brings in bigger, better things for this sport.
Our marketing team might be like average age at 12 here soon.
Yeah, no doubt. It helps with their communication. Some of them are a little shy, and I think we need to bring them out of their shell a little bit this season. Put microphones in front of their faces more often. They'll get used to it.
No doubt.
For sure.
Do they bring the novice champion to the dock at Valleyfield?
I think so.
When they win the
did
final?
2 years ago. It was Nolan, Jaden won, and we brought him by Sea-Doo.
That's awesome.
To the dock. And then, unfortunately, this year, because of the weather, they couldn't get their final in.
Because I know they were doing some of the heats over in the bay or whatever.
Yeah, we tried that. That was a disaster.
Yeah.
Did anybody wind up in the fountain?
No one ended up in the fountain, but it was the whole logistical side on how to get a starting clock and figure all that out. That was, the buoys wasn't the issue. It was the starting clock, they don't, they have the AccuClocks, clocks, but even then that was just it was a whole nightmare. And then it just got even worse, and they started hitting waves, and it was like, okay, no, we're just going to abandon ship. I mean, we tried, but it got way too bad.
It's interesting.
Well, I will say it's cool seeing all the teams and all the drivers and everybody in the morning when everybody's getting ready, and kind of just because there's that lull period after drivers meet and kind of waiting around for the first heats, and the amount of people that kind of step up to the shore and sit there and watch those guys run around is really cool. And I know for me, I love watching it. I think it's fun watching those kids. They're all better than me. When I drove a J stock, I lasted like 15 seconds. So
yeah, no, they're doing a great job, and having the supporters from the racers is even better, want to or not. You drivers are their idols, right? They've been watching you guys race, and to see you guys there supporting them is just what's going to encourage them to keep going and to want to stay in this sport.
Sure. It's exciting. I'm real excited for the season. Obviously, HRL, H1, everything we've talked about it all winter with the media side of everything and the promotions and the plans in place. Like, it's going to be one of the best seasons I think we've seen in a long time, and you're going to see a lot of it on social media. We're going to push it, obviously, but all the leagues working together is going to be great. Do you have any closing thoughts before we let you go on how these seasons are going to go, and who's going to be your? Actually, I have a question before your closing thoughts. Who do you think you're going to give your first penalty to?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good one. I couldn't tell you. I can't be mentioning names here. Who knows?
Yeah, because then they'll be like, "This was premeditated. It was on Chasin Tails."
Premeditated, yeah. Yeah, I'm not gonna say. Let's just hope it not falls on one of you guys, because that would be pretty funny.
Yeah, it might be.
The good thing Austin isn't driving Cambridge, so you don't got to worry about buoys.
Yeah, they're safe this year. Hey, they were safe last year too.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Damn.
So no, closing out, I'm looking forward to this season. It's going to be another busy summer. A lot of weekends of racing, and it's typical. You guys are used to it. Also, it's going to be awesome to get back and see everybody. HRL, H1, everything GPA, everything is going to be an absolute blast. I'm sure there's going to be all kinds of new challenges that await me. More issues that'll happen that you think you've got covered, like happen every year. You think you figured everything out in the rule book, and yet something happens, and you gotta figure it out. And just getting to work with everybody, see everybody again, and just having another amazing summer.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely excited for it, and it's gonna be, for me, it'll be a cool full circle moment to be racing together in T-boats when we were 15, 16 to now. You're going to sign off hopefully on me being a qualified unlimited driver. It's gonna be pretty unique, and you will sign off because I'm gonna do all the right things. You told me to read the rule book. I'm reading it. I'm a little slow, but I'm gonna get it read. But please shorten it up for me and then send it to me.
We're working on that.
Oh, damn.
But yeah, man, we appreciate you coming on Chasin Tails. It was cool to hear your perspective of everything going on. Excited to see you, and we'll see you soon down there in Cambridge, I guess.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
Sure.
Catch you later.
All right, boys. You got any closing thoughts, or can we just wrap up this episode right now? I know Kyle's got to talk. He won.
No, it was cool to get to talk to Jonathan. I think he's got a lot to do with the show that HRL has been able to put on and grow and create these last several years. We've talked about it before, I think, boat racing in general, but for a long time, there was a lot of controversy, and it feels like there's not nearly as much of that anymore.
No.
Yeah, I think that makes all of our lives easier. That makes fans' lives easier for understanding. That makes our lives less stressful. Makes it more fun. I don't know. I think it's good for everybody.
For sure. I mean, you were at the center of a lot of controversy last year. I mean, that guy threw his helmet. About broke his own helmet because of you.
I didn't do nothing.
There was no penalty, though. No penalty. Kind of like Austin hitting the buoy.
What buoy?
I forgot.
Sorry,
I meant to pull the stream up to ask Jonathan his thoughts about that, but
Oh
I
man,
forgot.
I wish I would have had some of the videos they were showing at the gala of like the penalties, because the final in
Dude.
Brockville for the 350s,
Oh,
there was boats going everywhere. I'm like, what do
They
you
threw
call
Steve
here?
Armstrong on the spot. So I remember we were sitting
Everyone
in that row
was
of chairs,
his.
and he was right behind us, and he was sitting there. He's like, "Oh no."
With me again? Okay.
Yeah, it was. I will say that one, like that situation was a referee's worst nightmare. You had a boat slide a little bit, which resulted in another boat sliding a little bit while the other boat was coming in a little bit, and it's freaking 6 350s going into turn one at Brockville in the final at the same time. Like,
Yeah.
that's got a 0% success rate of all time. It's never happened, never worked. Somebody either backs out, gets forced to get out of it, goes up a tail, hooks, and that's racing. That's not a complaint by any means, but
Right.
that's just
Well,
don't be in the middle.
Physics.
that leads in the point of like, there's goods and bads of fighting for lanes or assigned lanes, and that's why it works in HRL. Because could you imagine a final 8 350s aggressive? I mean, I know there's the talk of, oh, no boats have got torn up before the start. We haven't had 8 good 350s fight for lanes in a long time. It would get ugly. I really believe.
My
Watching-
point is, I would just go to the Kip Brown and Doug Martin scenario, and that didn't end up doing that much damage to the boats in the Triple Crown.
Yeah,
But it could have. It could have been
Yeah.
really ugly.
Shit, man. I don't know. Watching even just Hampton last year, watching those 350s
Yeah.
battle it out, and there was only 3 of them, or 3 or 4
Yeah,
of
you
them.
stuck
And it was
Andrew, Patrick, Bobby, and Jeff. Was it Jeff?
Yeah.
or
Jeff.
Kip? Jeff out there.
Yeah.
Like, just those 4, and it was already hectic.
it was hairy.
Yeah, it was. Alex, I loved Alex out there. Alex just minded his own business.
He's
the
just
whole
out.
time
Yeah, like,
up
I'm
here.
just
He was
out
like,
here.
Nope,
just
we're not
cruising.
getting involved in that.
Yeah,
Oh,
they were fun times though. But I don't think I'm too old for it.
One
If
thing I'll
Ray's
say-
like, hey, we're fighting for lanes again in Valleyfield with the 350, I'd be like, nah, I don't know,
Oh.
man.
how would park and work on the St. Lawrence?
It's hard. So when we fought for lanes in Tonawanda before, you'd like park in the middle of turn 2 and you'd be inside the course. You'd be
That's-
like steady fighting
That's
the
how
boat.
that's how the
Yeah.
hydro sim
Yeah.
is. It's
Yeah,
miserable.
it's wild. And with the current, especially
You
there,
only park
Detroit
on the
was
back
same way.
stretch.
Yeah.
Now, on some of them, like Brockville, I feel like the current, if you're on the back stretch, is coming straight at you. Could you like just hover in the same
Yeah,
spot
pretty much
and
stay
not
in one
really
spot.
move?
Yep.
That's
Yeah, especially at a 1 minute pin, you play that into the game of how close you can get to it.
So here's my
And
question:
then back in the day when you'd shut them off and you'd actually drift backwards.
if you cross the 1 minute pin, but then back up past it, do you
Shouldn't be a
unjump it?
penalty.
Do you
Yeah,
unjump?
should
You
be.
should unjump it.
Yep. But I don't know how it happened, but it happened. I swear I didn't shut it off. It's just the current got me. Big gust of wind.
Yeah.
I remember back in the day, you used to like lift the lids, like just to give yourself a little air block. Like, I mean, the shit we did.
I used to
was
love
just insane.
watching Bob when he would leapfrog. It was mainly at Cambridge when they'd have that 1 minute pin on the back stretch, and then
Mhm.
you'd come rush down to establish your lane at the exit of 2, and he'd come like flying through just past the apex and then wiggle the thing back and forth.
It
shaving
works.
Speed.
It
It
Well,
works.
I did it in Lakeland. My first. Well, it worked the one time. The second time, it doesn't work when you're going 30, 40 miles an hour still, and you're 5 feet from
Yeah.
the pin. But
just-
the one time it worked really well.
I just remember Dad asking Bob if he was so worried about time or about time. Why did he overlap him by 3 rooster tails?
I just want to make sure I'm clear, boss.
Fair point. Oh, he could have parked it at the entrance to 1, and he took it all the way around to the exit.
Yeah, I think the
Oh.
best move, Bobby and I discussed it before Heat once when we were running 2.5, was you get right on that guy's back corner and you just tap them, and then they turn sideways. So when they gas it to like go back to lane 1, you're already there. You're like, gotcha.
You want to know that is probably the most realistic aspect of Hydro Sim is that exact
Can you
same
do
thing
it?
you can do in that game.
Sweet.
You can like hook onto their spots in a little bit and start driving them out of their lane, and yeah,
Nice.
it's a little messed
Or-
up, but
Or just the crazy Canuck way is just drive over the top of them.
yeah, right.
Like I seen a clip, I think Montwork posted it the other day at Jimmy Shane. I mean, they're all established, lane 1, 2, 3, and he's in the unlimited and just comes up and just like right in front of Nielsen. It's like,
Yep.
What?
Just you see the water coming through the cowling out the back.
It's like, yeah. I hope he got called. He probably didn't get called.
I don't know.
Who knows?
I've watched a lot of those videos, and that is not the only crazy warm-up situation I've seen. The limiteds are wild.
I mean, it's exciting. The fans just need to know it better. They need to understand it. They need to have, like I said, that map when they give it to you at driver's meeting, and you're like, all right, I can cut from here, I can cut here. Like that needs to be publicized on Facebook at the least. Should be in a flyer. Like it should be done way before the event, be in their program books, like because that makes all the difference in the world to be able to understand it and know, like, hey, this counts. You have to watch the whole time, like. From 5 minutes on, you need to watch to see what's going on.
Think about F1 and like all the track maps they have of the DRS zones and all that stuff. If you don't know where a DRS zone is in an F1 race, you don't know.
Yeah, you've got no idea what they're talking about. Like
it makes no sense.
Hajar had no idea where the end of the DRS zone was.
Or Duhan.
Yeah.
Or Duhan.
Hold the button.
Right into the wall.
That was wild, man.
Jeez.
Talk about a rookie. Man. Don't do some shit like that in the Unlimited this year, Brandon. I don't know what would be like the equivalent of that, but don't do that.
I'm going to run the GP course. Since I ran the Unlimited course as a GP, I'm going to run the GP course. I'm going to get that. That's going to be a fast lap.
Yeah, it is.
I won't be over my lap time. Well, I think we're about at the point of wrapping it up. We got anybody scheduled on for next week?
Yeah.
Still working
Trey
on
Holt's coming on next week.
All right. Cool.
Awesome.
You going to come on and get the boat back and you're going to be thrashing
I'm putting him on the spot a little bit. Matt Sontag's supposed to join him.
All right, cool. Nice.
We'll see if we can get him to, but
there you go.
If you're listening, Matt,
you're
on. Expected.
I mean, you have to. I'll make the thumbnail tomorrow.
You can leave after 5-10 minutes. We don't care.
Yep. You can sit in the corner like Austin does.
Yeah.
As quiet as can be, but he's there. And
hey,
at some point
well.
we'll talk. It
works
does.
well. It's a strategy.
It's a good strategy there, Cotton.
There's one thing that I'm truly, truly here for, and that is this. That's it.
Oh, gotta love it.
Hey, at least you'll be able to get like a real voice recording of that one this weekend.
Yep.
There we go.
There you go. We'll get her wound up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if you guys ain't got nothing, that wraps it up for episode 45 of Chasin Tails. Hope you enjoyed the chat with Jonathan Abbott. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment, follow everything you can do to help us grow this thing. It's going to be a good year, and we'll see you next week.
See you.